Now, thanks so much for joining us. We're always on at CBS4.com. Tonight on the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. Katie is live from the strike zone in Central Florida, where tornadoes overnight have killed nearly 20 people. For the CBS 4 News team, I'm Rob Hanrahan. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
I'm Katie Couric in Central Florida, an area devastated by a killer tornado.
Looks like a bomb went off.
Entire neighborhoods were flattened, cars tossed around, and more than a dozen people killed. We have a team of correspondents in the disaster zone. Also tonight, is there any way out? A new intelligence report paints a grim picture of Iraq's future.
Hands up, please.
And a close-up look at the extraordinary efforts to keep everyone safe at the Super Bowl.
A lot of work with a lot.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric reporting tonight from Central Florida.
Good evening, everyone. We're in Lady Lake, Florida, and it's really hard to believe, but there was a church right here, right behind me. Then early this morning, while most of the people in this town were sleeping, a powerful storm tore through this part of Central Florida, and a tornado ripped the church down. The church and homes throughout the area. At least 19 people were killed, hundreds of homes damaged or destroyed. At least 10,000 homes and businesses have no electricity tonight. For most here, there was little or no warning. There are very few warning sirens in these rural areas. The storms cut through the heart of Central Florida beginning around 3 o'clock this morning and left a trail of destruction 30 miles wide. This is a satellite photo of what was the Church of God here in Lady Lake. 31 years old and recently renovated, the church was built to withstand winds of 150 miles an hour. As you can see, it could not stand up to the tornado that struck in the dark of night. National correspondent Byron Pitts has been checking out the damage throughout the area and talking to people who are very lucky to be alive tonight. Byron, tell us what you've seen.
Well, Katie, this was Florida's second deadliest tornado. The victims, some were in high school, some were grandparents. They had little warning, no time to escape.
It was hellacious thunder and lightning, and then I heard his roaring come through, and I says, I think we got a tornado.
And as is her way, Mother Nature did not discriminate. The wealthy, the modest, the poor suffered. This deadly mix of thunderstorms and tornadoes struck Central Florida at 3:15 a.m. It was pitch black. Most were asleep. By daybreak, the destruction was breathtaking. The loss of life and property, heartbreaking. Survivors shed tears, shared stories.
We heard it coming, got up, grabbed our 2-month-old son, went to the bathroom, ducked down, heard the window shatter, and thought that was going to be it.
The closet door caved in on me, and then the roof was gone.
The small town of Paisley got it worst. At least 13 people killed. Vern and Eddie Huber's neighbors among the dead.
Just hard to know where to begin.
At the Villages, one of the largest retirement communities in America, the damage was widespread. Seniors forced to flee for their lives in darkness with only the clothes on their back. Today's twister swept through an unusually long 70-mile stretch. The National Weather Service issued a warning at 3:02 a.m. on the radio only. There are no sirens in the area if residents heard anything at all. They had just minutes to find cover, with winds possibly up to 165 miles per hour. The tornadoes moved east-northeast through villages including Lady Lake, Paisley, and finally ending in DeLand less than an hour later. Florida Governor Charlie Crist declared a state of emergency and toured the destruction.
Well, it's devastating. I mean, it looks like a bomb went off. It's just unbelievable.
For all the death and destruction, and it is widespread, one of the main concerns now moving forward, how do you restore electricity to this region? Some 780,000 homes lost power. Many of them won't get it back tonight, tomorrow night, or the night after.
It was scary. It was very scary. Very, very terrifying.
Amanda Stort's hid in her bathroom with her husband and their children ages 2 and 4. Taken to at least 5 area hospitals. As for the victims, they've been taken to at least 5 area hospitals. And Katie, we've been told some are in very bad shape.
All right, Byron, thank you so much. More than 200 people belong to the Lady Lake Church of God, the church that was behind me. They attend services here every Sunday. And this Sunday, even though the church building is gone, they will be here.
We had great confidence in the integrity of the building, but evidently something greater than it come along.
Pastor Larry Lynn and his wife Susan can barely believe what's left of their church. Built in 1976, it was used as a hurricane shelter and was designed to sustain winds of 150 miles an hour. This is what it looked like until early this morning. Where's the steeple again?
There's the steeple, what's left of it right there. See that big white piece of thing there? That steeple was located about 30 feet up in the air, and then it went another 20 feet in the air. So actually the church looks like it just imploded on itself.
So strange, you have pieces of the building hanging from the trees everywhere, right?
Yeah, they're hanging everywhere.
There's a hymnal.
Yeah.
I surrender to thee.
Okay.
It did.
If you haven't, you need to. Basically, it's a total loss.
It's pretty humbling, isn't it?
Well, it is. We never know what a day might bring. This facade here stood right along the front there. This actually stood up, all the way across the front.
Do you know any of the people who lost their homes or lost their lives?
Well, we don't know who did for sure.
We know one little girl that lost her life. She attended our youth group on an occasional basis, and our heart goes out to them and all the others in the community that have lost far more than we have. We lost a building. We can replace that.
But you all are going to have services out here on Sunday.
Right out there in the front yard. Come be with us.
Church or no church, right?
Well, hey, the church will be there. The building won't, but the church will be out there.
Another area hit hard by the storms is Volusia County. Sharon Alfonsi is there about 50 miles east of us in the town of DeLand.
But obviously it's a total loss.
The tornadoes left their footprints all over northern Florida. We caught up with Grayson Bly looking for his roof.
Your wife was asleep in this bedroom.
Yeah.
And what happened?
No, I got her out of there. She ran in that bathroom, and then next thing I know, the roof went off of this one, and that one went, and then I got in there to get that last dog, and that one came slap down on top of me.
And if you hadn't been awake?
If I wouldn't have been awake, she'd have been gone. I mean, I can't even find this roof anywhere.
It happened just before 4 a.m. Mother Nature's wake-up call refused to be ignored.
We heard the train. We tried to make it to our walk-in closet. I did. My husband didn't. He ended up on the floor beside the bed, and the closet door caved in on me, and then the roof was gone.
Sunrise would reveal the damage.
And to be clear, this isn't a mobile home. This is a house.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it's good. Part brick and frame house. It just, it blew it apart.
Trees bent like paper clips. Homes reduced to toothpicks.
That's my sink up there. My bathtub is over there. Unbelievable.
13 people in the town of Paisley alone killed. Doris Toms can't believe she wasn't among them.
God was there. Yeah, I was one of the fortunate, lucky ones, unlike some of my neighbors.
700 buildings alone just in this county were damaged. Fortunately, no one was inside this home, but we just want to be clear about this. These are not mobile homes. Even bricks and boards didn't stand a chance against these tornadoes. Katie?
Sharon Alfonsi, thank you. Charlie Crist is the governor of Florida and has been in office for just 31 days. Governor, I understand you spent most of the day surveying the damage from the air and from the ground. Can you describe it for us?
It was amazing. Obviously, you know, when you see that kind of destruction, it really takes you by surprise. And it was unbelievable to see that level of destruction. It was like a bomb went off. It really was, Katie. And, you know, a lot of people throughout Central Florida were impacted in a significant way. But the good news is an awful lot of people have worked incredibly hard to help those people, to help their family members, to help others who may have been injured during the storm. And Florida responds, as she always does, very well and very effectively.
Were some areas just leveled, flattened completely?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, never seen devastation like that. And, you know, we've had a lot of hurricanes in our state recently, but the way that it impacts from a tornado is completely different. It's very surgical. It's very intense.
Meanwhile, I understand that many of the residents in these counties got absolutely no warning that this was coming. Why is that, and will you make this a priority to implement a better system?
Well, we'll certainly make that a priority. As much warning as you can get, everybody's better off, no question about it. And one of the big differences between a tornado and a hurricane, you get enormous advance warning. With a tornado, it's a much smaller window. And so we want to do everything we can to make sure that Floridians are aware as soon as possible when these things might strike.
All right, Governor Charlie Crist. Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we want to bring in meteorologist Brian Norcross of CBS 4 Miami. Brian, I understand it's very unusual to have this powerful a storm here in Florida at this time of year. Is that right?
Well, Katie, it's not at all usual to have this powerful a storm, but if we're going to have it, it's going to happen in the wintertime, like this time of year, and it's going to happen very often in the middle of the night. And it's going to happen in an El Nino year when we get a strong jet stream, a southern branch of the jet stream coming across the state. And then we get a disturbance come along, and that's what spawns the tornado. So everything has to come together. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, unfortunately, it often happens in February. This same system is going to move south, but the good news is no more tornadoes, but it may make it a little bit of a windy and wet Super Bowl. We'll just have to see.
So it was a tragic confluence of events. Brian Norcross. Brian, thank you. We've got much more CBS News ahead. I'll be back from Central Florida later in the broadcast with more on these deadly storms. But coming up next, Russ Mitchell in New York has the very latest on the battle for Iraq.
And good evening from New York. Here's what else is happening tonight. Even more U.S. troops could be headed to Iraq. U.S. command has asked for another 1,800 support troops to go along with the 21,000 additional combat troops. And the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are getting more expensive. Today, the Bush administration said it plans to ask for another $100 billion for military and diplomatic operations this year, plus another $145 billion for next year. Also today, the release of a new intelligence report on Iraq paints a very bleak picture. From the Pentagon, here's David Martin.
It's not just a civil war. Iraq is spiraling downward toward implosion. That's the stark picture painted by the National Intelligence Estimate, or as former CIA analyst Kenneth Pollard calls it, the NIE.
The NIE does a very nice job of making clear the trajectory that Iraq is on, and that trajectory is straight down.
National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley says that's why the president changed his Iraq strategy.
To continue doing what we're doing was, as he said, a prescription for slow failure.
The president is sending in 21,000 more troops in an effort to put a lid on the violence. But the NIE says even if violence is diminished, Iraqi leaders will be hard-pressed to govern. And Iraqi security forces will be hard-pressed to take over the fighting in the next 12 to 18 months.
It's going to be the United States that is assuming the lion's share of the burden because there is now a recognition that we don't have a partner in Iraq yet, and it is going to be years before we have one.
Iran is making the violence worse by smuggling in advanced explosive devices, but the report makes clear Iran is not what's wrong with Iraq.
And you could eliminate Iran's influence from Iraq entirely, and you still would not fix the problems of Iraq.
How close is disaster? The assassination of a major political or religious leader could trigger the government's death throes.
With the level of violence we have, particularly in Baghdad, it makes more likely that one of these triggering events that could collapse the government and the Iraqi security forces might occur.
One senior intelligence official rates the Iraqi government's chances at less than 50-50. Put another way, Russ, that means the U.S. is closer to failure than it is to success.
David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you very much. A U.S. Army Apache helicopter crashed today north of Baghdad. Witnesses say insurgents fired on it and 2 soldiers on board were killed. It was the 4th American helicopter to crash in 13 days. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff acknowledged U.S. aircraft are facing increased danger from ground fire. Up next, Katie rejoins us from Florida with an up-close look at the biggest security event of the year, the Super Bowl.
Back now in Central Florida, the scene of so much devastation from those overnight storms. There's another big and very different story, though, going on in this state. The Super Bowl will be played this Sunday about 280 miles southeast of here in Miami. It, of course, is much more than a football game. It's become the ultimate symbol of American culture, the most visible television event of the year. Since 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security has designated the Super Bowl a Level 1 national security event with the same level of security as a presidential inauguration. The people in charge of Super Bowl security gave me a rare behind-the-scenes look today at what they're doing to keep everyone safe. That's tonight's CBS News in Focus. The Bears and the Colts have had 2 weeks to get ready for the Super Bowl, but the teams responsible for security have been preparing for 2 years.
We're ready. Like I said, we've done so much work.
Lieutenant Cliff Nelson is with the Miami-Dade Police Department, the lead agency in charge of Super Bowl security.
We've taken a lot of effort to make sure that it's a very, very safe environment in the air.
The FAA has established a temporary flight restriction surrounding Dolphin Stadium, which will go into effect 2 hours before kickoff and end 1 hour after the game ends. During that time, there will be a 10-mile ring of protected airspace. No blimps, no banners, no exceptions.
We reached out to our friends at Customs and Border Protection, and we also contacted NORAD.
Flight restrictions are enforced 2 ways, high and fast and low and slow, with Black Hawk helicopters, courtesy of U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
What if somebody does go in there? What happens to that person?
No, that won't happen.
On the civilian side, the NFL has hired 3,000 security personnel.
This is all about defense out here. We can react if we have to, but we much prefer to use defense and prevention.
Milt Ulrich was an FBI agent for 25 years. Now he's the NFL's vice president for security.
We've got the resources, and we have zero complaint about the resources from the federal government. The question is whether or not we've thought of everything.
Ulrich says among their biggest concerns are car bombs and terrorists using IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So they've constructed a 300-foot perimeter fence around the stadium. Fans coming in will be screened as thoroughly as they would be at an airport. When you think of what-if possibilities, what is the most frightening to you?
Well, that we haven't thought of everything. We work so hard to be sure that we've done everything, but human beings operate the plan, and hopefully we don't have someone make a mistake in doing something that they shouldn't. They should have done and didn't do.
And we'll be back with more news in a moment.
Next week, don't miss Catherine McPhee in a spectacular performance. And on Monday, we're live with the winners of Super Bowl 41, only on The Early Show.
We're continuing to cover 2 big stories here in Florida, the devastating storms and the Super Bowl. A man from Georgia had hoped to play a key role in the game, but now he's stuck on the sidelines. Steve Hartman has his story in tonight's Assignment America.
Although the banner didn't exactly say mission accomplished, and the governor of Georgia wasn't wearing a flight suit, this would still become one of those regrettable, premature celebrations.
You don't get in this league by being best. You get in this league of laying down the sod for the Super Bowl by being the best of the best.
This was January 4th. Governor Sonny Perdue had flown here to Jennings Sod Farm in East Georgia to brag on the sod and drive the tractor for the ceremonial first cut of Super Bowl turf. This was a big deal. In the nearby town of Soperton, it was all anyone could talk about.
They're all going to be watching the Super Bowl, and they're all going to be looking to make sure that that grass does us good.
It doesn't break. It doesn't tear as easily as other grass would.
Best field ever.
Best field ever. That's what they promised. Philip Jennings had spent 2 years growing the grass, had invested more than $250,000 and 15,000 man-hours.
This effort will not be in vain as we watch the largest sporting event in the world.
Then came January 5th.
The strong weather blew into our area around 2 this afternoon.
A line of thunderstorms flooded Jennings Sod Field. They still tried laying it in Miami days later, but NFL field director Ed Mangan said it was just too wet.
The soil makeup, it's grown on a sandy soil, so you add a lot of water to that and it won't hold together.
So Jennings turf was out, and Southern Turf Nurseries was in. It was a huge coup in the highly competitive sod industry. Southern issued a press release saying, "It saves the day." Company owner Eddie Warner told me on the phone that he's so sure his grass will hold together that he will personally eat any piece of turf that comes up off the field. Meanwhile, Jennings refuses to concede this turf war.
I am in the game. Can you do without the sidelines at the game?
Because it wasn't part of the playing surface, the NFL left a few patches of Jennings sod out of bounds.
I think if you make it to the Super Bowl, everybody that's there is a star.
Guy sure knows how to cover up a brown patch. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Soperton, Georgia.
Tonight's Assignment America segment is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
Before we leave you, an update on the situation here in Central Florida, where at least one tornado struck overnight. At least 19 people were killed when the storm roared through at about 3 in the morning. Rescuers are still searching for more victims and homes that were flattened. Florida's Governor Charlie Crist has declared a state of emergency in 4 counties. Some of the people who survived the storms will gather here on Sunday, where their church once stood, to pray for those they lost and to give thanks for what they still have. That's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric reporting tonight from Lady Lake, Florida. Good night.
CBS News. See it now, anytime, anywhere.